So, you've made a good first impression, you got the gig, it's a recurring gig either with a band or a venue. This is great. This is exactly where we want to be. The only problem is that you're not on salary, there's no contract, presumably, and the only way you're going to be invited back is if they continue to like you each and every time. Now, this is a skill in and of itself, and it's really what separates the boys from the men or the girls from the women in this industry. Because it's easy to make a first impression. I think you put a lot of effort into a first impression, but you have to keep that up. You know, it becomes a job. It's still a fun job, but it's definitely a job. So first and foremost, I should mention that everybody I interviewed about this question gave me pretty much the same answer, and I cannot stress this enough.
Being on time.
Show up on time.
They're on time.
Nobody wants to deal with people who are late.
Be on time. Be on time. Be on time. Okay? Don't ever be late for anything. If they say sound check's at noon, be there at 11:30. Okay? Don't wait till 11:55 or 11:58 to try to show up because something's gonna get in your way. Okay? And you walk in at 12:02, 12:03, they don't like it. They don't like it at all.
Get it? Got it?
Good! Oh. Good!
Bernard Terry actually lent me a book called Musicians 101, What They Don't Teach You in Music School, which is a very easy read and every musician should get it. And on the first page, out of like 310 tips, isolated on the first page, is be an hour early to every gig. Here's Bernard right now introducing me to that book and talking about the key element of any freelancer's career, reputation.
Being a freelance musician and just freelance anything, it goes back to work ethic. You're not tied down to nothing. Like, yeah, I could have been a studio musician. Yeah, I could have been a touring musician for this record label. But being a freelance means you get to bounce all over the place wherever you want to go. The only problem with that is that you're going by your name and your reputation only. So now you got to build your name and reputation up. And so you want to make sure you have a good name and good reputation across the board. And I don't think we talked about that, but having a good personality, not getting drunk on the bandstand. There's this really good book, How to Be a Musician 101. And it's a really good book. I'll give you the book and you can plug it in there. Really good book. It's 101 ways of how to gig. And it's written by this piano player in New York I met. And he lays everything out, like from the way you dress to how you present yourself, how to have business cards on you, how to, even from the time you even wake up in the morning. It's really good stuff, man. So like being a freelancer, and it's just like in business, like you see freelance contractors all the time for electricians and plumbers. I learned a lot of that stuff from them, just talking with them, because like they got to do business too. And at the end of the day, this is a business. Even though there is a higher calling, this is a business. So you got to treat it like a business. And if you want your business to suck and if you don't want to make money, then you can do that. If you want to be great though, there's certain things you got to do. So that's how you be a good freelancer.
That's going to be a theme in this video, because you might luck out and get asked back on account of being super talented, but the basic principles of business will have your back every time. I read a book called The Go-Giver very recently, and in it talks about any profession only being 10% technical skill max. The rest is just people skills. So those basic business principles will have your back every time. Here's my old Professor Jason to elaborate. What would be some extremely blanket over, like real quick advice for like being a freelance musician?
Well, professionalism in both respects. Musically, being a professional and what that means. I mean, we could talk about that as well. But on the business side, being a professional, like the most basic stuff is like, responding to calls, being on time, wearing the right outfits. It's all the basics of any kind of business advice, like how you would handle yourself. I mean, be a professional about it. It's a real drag, like especially if it's a traveling gig or any gig where you have to spend time with other people. Nobody wants to deal with people who are late, who create a lot of drama on the bandstand and off the bandstand, you know. And maybe a person is so great musically that they're willing to deal with a certain amount of that, you know. But at a certain point, even there's a there's a limit to what somebody might want to deal with, you know, like a band leader. You know, they want the best person to play, but also, you know, if they're going to spend time with them on the road, in an airplane, so on and so forth, you know, they want to have somebody that they'd like to hang out with.
Jason also taught me a thing or two about rehearsing. And I think everybody could not only save their careers, but also just a lot of time by getting hip to this.
Because there's a difference between rehearsing and practicing. You know, if you don't know your part, you're not ready for rehearsal. You know, because you need to practice and get your stuff together. And then rehearsal is where you put everything together and you work on the energy that you create as a unit, as an ensemble, you know. And that can't be done if one person still doesn't know the tune yet. You can't start on that energy yet because you're still dealing with somebody reading the chart or trying to fake their way through the tune, you know. So it just depends on the situation. But in general, yeah, like, know what the expectation is for the rehearsal and meet that expectation or exceed it, especially if you're trying to get a gig. You know, I've been in a number of situations where I've been impressed because somebody's exceeded. I mean, it's clear like they're ultra prepared for rehearsal, you know, and that really stands out because that's kind of an anomaly, at least around here. You know, if somebody's ultra prepared and they kill the rehearsal, man, that, to me, that goes a long way. You know, and the opposite could be just as bad. You know, somebody who rolls in, it's like, especially if you're the band leader and you put all this time, like, here's your music. You know, you kind of hold somebody's hand, basically. Here's your music. I've made it as clear as I could for you. Here are some recordings. And then a week later, you know, we show up to the rehearsal and somebody's like, oh, can you play that? I haven't listened to it yet. You know, it's like, you know, well, we're here to practice then. We're not here to rehearse. You know, I'm big surprise. So, you know, so yeah, if it's just casual, if you're weekend warriors and it's just casual and you're just playing with friends, well, maybe the pressure's not that big. You know, if you're getting paid to do a gig and you've agreed to do it, you know, I think you should come prepared to your rehearsal if that's the expectation, you know. So otherwise, let somebody else do the gig if you're going to gripe that it doesn't pay enough or that it's not what you want to do or whatever, you know. Don't be a drag, you know.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, especially when you've already gotten the gig. It's just a question of whether you're going to continue to show up. I mean show up in every way. Here's Bernard to talk more about, how do I say it, taking a bowel movement or getting off the pot.
The one way you keep any job is you do honest work. You always stay honest to everybody. You tell the truth. You always put the best effort that you can put out. If you don't do your best effort, you go, hey, I think it's time for me to leave. And then you can go ahead and quit. Or sometimes you just go, hey, I need to step back for a few minutes and take a break. That's the biggest thing I learned. And that's just business. At the end of the day, people make music like it's a higher calling. It's the universe speaking to you. No, it's not. It's business. In business, do you want to take breaks? Take breaks. If you don't want to do the job, you don't want to do the job. But if you show up to do a job, you do your 100% best. And that's how you always keep a gig.
By the way, and this is crucial, if you ever have something on the calendar already and you get offered something else on that same night that maybe is more creatively fulfilling, pays more, is more fun, just remember that canceling that date that you already confirmed on is just a clear message that you do not want to be in that band anymore. So, if you want to quit a band, go ahead and do that. But if you don't want to quit that band, do not do that thing. Now here's Garland Griffin of Griffin and the Gargoyles to talk to you about what it takes to be in his band.
Well, I find, you know, there's a lot of good players out there, but like when you're a band leader, you have to juggle the personalities, and you need to find people that, you know, one that want to be there, they're on time, You know what I mean? They're conscious of what's important, to the crowd, and that's what's important to me, because we're doing this long term. You know what I mean? And we want to keep it together. So I find people that are. I like to try to find people that are responsible. Which is not always easy to do in the musician field.
Griffin also gave me the scoop on, if you're a band leader or a solo performer, what the goal should be if you want to do this long term and keep the gig of music.
Another thing that's important as far as getting gigs and keeping gigs going, we always had a goal of, every gig we get, we want to get two. We want to replace that gig, plus we want to get another. Okay, so then that's important, because that's how you build momentum, and then eventually that snowball, and all of a sudden you have a full calendar. And that should be every musician's goal.
Those are the types of goals that I'm talking about. But in the beginning, if you're not in charge of booking, just aim low enough, as Jordan Peterson would say, and focus on the little things. And here's Michael to give you some of those little things to focus on.
For a musician to keep a gig with me, I'm very big on communication. I'm very big on people following the rules that's set up. I'm very big on how you carry yourself, because those three things are what's going to keep you employed with me. There's people that are really good, like really, really good, that I will not work with, because either their attitude, they can't show up on time, there's always something that comes up, but if you follow my rules that I have set up, my guidelines, and you're big on communicating, I can get in touch with you. You don't go ghost on me and disappear, and we're worrying about, okay, well, is he going to make it to the gig? Is he not going to make it to the gig? I need to know that you're going to be there, that you're dependable. I need to know that I can get in touch with you. I need to know that once we are on site, you're not going to be too drunk or too high and embarrass both of us, because I will not be embarrassed.
And that is a line that no band leader will let you cross. Here's my man Nick to elaborate on why you need to hold yourself accountable on gigs, because it's not just your career that you're affecting with the choices that you make.
Like, let's say, for example, let's say I'm on a gig with ABE and I get hammered drunk and ruin the gig. All right? As far as the bride's concerned, that's ABE's fault. That doesn't matter that I'm going to get fired. It just matters that the band leader assured her I would be good, and I wasn't. What I mean? So that's probably the hardest thing about being a band leader is just because it's like so many of us as musicians, like, we look at it as not quite a real job. You know what I mean? It's like we don't, sure, you got to show up in a black suit and know the tunes, but other than that, go ahead and have a beer.
And that's the dangerous part, because there's a line to be towed. You gotta do what you gotta do to have fun, and the job is to give a good time, so you might as well have a good time. That'll probably help. But too much alcohol or drugs can have diminishing effects, to the point of reputations getting marred and people getting fired because the performance suffered. And it's all about the performance. That's the whole job. Or maybe it's not the whole job. I mean, there's packing in, packing out, driving, dealing with the bridezillas, stuff like that. But you know what I mean. The performance is the part that you're there for, and what people notice. In my mind, there's an unspoken oath between all musicians, whether it's a band that's had the same members for 25 years, or it's an ad hoc ensemble that's coming together for the first time that night. There's always one unspoken promise between all the musicians, if they're worth anything as a pro musician. And it's this: we're here to serve this moment, this performance. Doesn't matter what's going on in my personal life or what's going on with my relationships with the band members when we're not on a gig. That doesn't matter while I'm on a gig. It doesn't matter if I have a cool musical idea to add, or a goofy idea to add, or a complicated idea that I've been woodshedding, because really none of that stuff adds, usually subtracts. All the musical decisions that you make on stage should go through this one question. And if they can't be answered affirmatively, then you probably just shouldn't do them. Am I serving the moment? Am I serving this performance? And usually, if you're on a bar gig or a wedding gig, what serves the performance best is just doing what's on the record. That's what people expect to hear, and that's what people want to hear. That's what's gonna give people that, oh, I know what that is, I know where you're coming from, I'm vibing. If you stick to that code, you will not only find so much work, but you will find that people are asking you to play with them again and again and again and again. Even though there's no contract, there's just respect. I consider it one of the greatest compliments and certainly more valuable than anything that's on my resume. The fact that the bands that I'm in and the venues that I play at always want me back. And you can take that to the bank. I know I do. Y'all, thank you so much for watching this video. I promise this video makes more sense if you watch how to get a gig first. This video, I'm sure, had a little bit of a dad tone to it, but you know, everybody needs like a little, gentle firmness every once in a while. Sometimes it's easy to get caught up in this is super fun. But you also have to remember that you're getting paid and it's a job and blah, blah, blah. So, enough said. I will see y'all next Monday with another video. It is going to be, how to be a band leader. That should be fun. That should be more uplifting. All right, I will see y'all then. And don't forget, the funk don't quit.